So I've been shooting a lot of personal content recently, and I'm really enjoying the process. And it also seems like you guys are enjoying it too. So in today's video, I'm going to explain why I came to Japan and how you can too. And I'm going to start the very beginning and give you the long story. But I'll break this down into chapters in the bottom so you can kind of skip if you want to. So basically, I came to Japan in 2009, end of September, after I had graduated from Colby and I'd spent 3 months working in Boston. And the reason I came to Japan, which is really the why, is because I wanted to live abroad for at least a short period of time. So my parents immigrated from Kenya to the States back in the 70s, and I really wanted an opportunity to live abroad to kind of understand what it's like to live somewhere with a totally different culture that's completely outside of my comfort zone. And so why Japan? Frankly, I would have moved anywhere in East Asia, but I had already visited India twice. I had already visited one European country, Italy, for about a week and a half. I'd visited Argentina for about a week and a half, been to Canada a dozen times. And I really wanted to experience a place that was just completely different than the places I had already visited. So I figured East Asia, namely Korea, China, or Japan, would be a really good fit. And of course, obviously, playing video games and liking anime when I was young, kind of, not obsessively, but I really liked Dragon Ball Z, and I played a ton of Super Smash Brothers and Street Fighter, etc. I really wanted to experience coming to Japan and see what Japan's all about. Because obviously, as Americans, Japan is this awesome, mysterious, exciting country that we know very little about, and it just seems really cool in a way. Whether you were into samurai swords or sushi, there's just something really cool about Japan. And I really wanted to explore whatever that was, but for a short period of time. I have now lived in Japan for 12 years, so obviously it didn't end up being short. But when I first came here, I was on a year-long contract to teach English. And this takes me actually to the how, which I'll just jump to now. So if you're interested in living in Japan and you've never lived here before, there are really a bunch of ways to go about getting a visa to live in Japan. And I'll probably do a longer video on that in general, but to just give you 4 that are really quick, they're not necessarily easy, and I don't necessarily recommend all of these, but they're good approaches if you're or they're viable approaches if you're interested in living in Japan and you're wondering how to get a visa. Number 1, probably the easiest way to do it is to just teach English. Again, I'll probably shoot a video and go into this in detail, but you can get a visa pretty simply for about a year, and then you can renew that visa or transition to different work. 2 would be to find employment at a company that's not teaching English. So if you're a lawyer, work at a law firm, or if you're in finance, work as a broker or a banker or something like that. And that's just basically finding a job over here. Option 3 is to essentially work as a contractor for a company, or actually, if you're coming over for the first time, you'll essentially have to work for a company. But once you are here, assuming you go the English route, you can then work as a contractor for a company and kind of finagle it that way. Again, I'll shoot a video to explain that in more detail because I realize it's not clear. And then option 4, I don't recommend this necessarily, but you can get married. Getting married is a really easy way to get a visa. I know people who have gone that route in order to just get a visa, and they've actually even switched. So I know like an American who married a Japanese person because they wanted to live in the other country, and then they've gone ahead and swapped. Again, I don't at all recommend that, but it is a viable option if you're desperate to come live in Japan. So anyways, I took the first route. I just wanted to live abroad for a short period of time. I was a junior in college. I was planning on going to law school originally when I graduated, but I also, again, wanted to try living somewhere else to kind of experience that feeling of living abroad. So I ended up getting a job teaching English here in Japan. I came over in end of September 2009. And long story short, I taught English for about a year and I want to say 6 months. A year and 6 months-ish. Yeah, I think about a year and 6 months at my original location, which was in Nagoya. Technically, it was in Aichi. And I lived in Nagoya, but I taught about 45 minutes away from where I lived. But anyways, that was my start. And then when I moved to Tokyo, I got a job at a company called Berlitz, and they gave me a 3-year visa. When I came to Tokyo with that 3-year visa and my new apartment, I actually only worked there for 2 months before essentially moving on and doing what I really enjoyed doing, which was performing. So I actually worked for an entire year as a musician and a freelance model, and it was amazing. It was the single craziest year of my entire life. Tokyo is a wild city, and again, I'll have to shoot a separate video to tell you some of those stories. But it was an incredible year, and that at the end of that year, so this is now 2012, towards the end of that, I got into the personal training space. I essentially wanted to explore two things that I loved. One was music, the other was fitness. Music was amazing, but it's very hard to make a living. Again, that's a separate video. So I moved on to one of my other passions, which was essentially fitness. And then I've now been in the fitness space for about 10 years. It's 2022. I started in 2012, personal training. My very first client was DJ Vivid. If you watch this video, thank you. He got me my start in the whole thing. I essentially messaged him, I think, on Facebook and said, "Hey man, I just got my online personal training certificate," meaning I did ISSA, so I got it online. Could I work with you? I've never worked with anyone. He was like, "Sure. How much do you charge?" And I didn't even have a rate, so I think I charged him like 3,000 yen or something, which is like $30. We went ahead and did PT, and actually he saw great results, and he's continued working out since then. But anyways, that's how I got my start. I've been in the fitness industry now for about 10 years, and I've transitioned from personal training, which I did for about 8 years, all over the city, largely working with expats in apartments, parks, gyms, public gyms, private gyms, studios, all over the place, people's homes, like really everywhere. I called myself a traveling trainer, and I worked with tons of expats in the city, and I loved that work. But at a certain point, I really wanted to transition to something that was a bit more scalable, so I moved online, which is now what I do. MH Health Coaching, you can check out the link in my bio. So that whole trajectory, my kind of 12 plus years in Japan, started as teaching English for, let's just say, a year and 8 months, to working as essentially a full-time musician and model for about a year, which was amazing, but also a massive struggle. That's its own video, which I'll get to later at some point. And then about a 10-year stint now in the fitness industry, which I love and which has just continued to kind of grow and scale. Especially now that I'm online, there's just a lot more kind of scalability there. So I'm totally happy to answer questions. If you've got them, you can drop them in the comments. I'll actually just shoot separate videos on the individual elements of that. I probably spoke too much about the kind of 4 ways I mentioned to get visas, but I'll actually just try to shoot a completely different video on that, because I'm sure a bunch of you, especially if you're kind of in America or abroad, you're interested in potentially coming to Japan and maybe some of the ways in which you can do that as well. And when you do get here, like how you can pursue whatever your passion is, whether that's being like a competitive eater or I don't know, whatever you want to do over here. And by competitive eater, I mean if you just want to enjoy food that's over here, like sushi, ramen, etc. Or if you want to pursue something like, for example, a friend of mine who's gone off and started one of the first Black-owned anime studios here in Japan. You can do really whatever you set your mind to, but the first priority is just to get here. So if you're, for example, college age, do a study abroad. If you're out of college and you're kind of living on your own and interested in coming over, again, the easiest possible route for sure is just to teach English. It's not glamorous. You're probably not going to want to do it forever, but it is a really good way to just get yourself over here and kind of get your feet wet and decide if Japan is a country you want to stay in longer. Because if you do, you can do that. You can make that transition much more easily once you're here. COVID has obviously complicated everything, and so if you're interested in coming here now, frankly, you can't, because Japan's just not allowing people into the country. But under normal circumstances, again, I'll shoot a separate video on kind of some of the ways you can come over here. It is relatively easy, especially if you're coming from an English-speaking country, to come over here and teach English, because they're always looking for ALTs, which are assistant language teachers. So anyways, I'll kind of end it there. If you guys have questions or comments, please drop them in. I'll shoot separate videos in the future, again, on the visa thing, my 1 year doing as a musician model, which was ridiculous in so many ways. And then I'll probably shoot a separate one to just kind of explain how my whole fitness career has evolved. But I kind of just wanted to shoot this one out there to explain fundamentally why I came to Japan, and again, how you can too. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. If you haven't liked this video, please do so, and I'll get back to you next week. See you guys.